Hello, and welcome to the Edifice of Trust podcast. The Edifice of Trust podcast is a thoughtful discussion of today's current events from the perspective of America's founding principles. Hello, everyone. You know, I am tired of talking about Donald Trump all the time. It is all so boring and redundant, as if outrageous statements, public policy flip-flops, obvious untruths, market-moving tariff announcements, extreme hyperbole, and personal attacks on everybody from heads of state to loopy rock stars and lefty movie stars could be redundant and boring. His latest gambit was a supposedly diplomatic mission to the Middle East that was actually more of a business trip with more than 60 CEOs of U.S. businesses in tow. President Trump obviously reveled in the royal treatment he received from Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, better known as MBS, UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and the Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. Trump and his MAGA supporters hailed the trip as a great success. The White House proudly announced all the trillions of dollars of investment in the U.S. as a result of this trip, with the president announcing a new, quote, golden age of prosperity for generations to come, unquote. Typically, the fanfare of these diplomatic missions is very different than the actual results, but by most conventional analyses, it was a good, successful trip. He also, at the request of MBS, met with the new interim president of Syria, Ahmed al-Sharaa, and promised to lift the sanctions that had been imposed on the Assad regime for 25 years. But amidst all the parades, reception tours, and general hobnobbing with fellow royals, Mr. Trump also found time to make a major foreign policy speech defining the Trump doctrine. In it, he denounced the interventionalists for attempting to impose Western ethical standards in the Middle East and accused the so-called nation builders, neocons, and liberal nonprofits that spent trillions and trillions of dollars but still failed to develop Kabul, Baghdad, and so many other cities. Quote, instead, the birth of a modern Middle East has been brought about by the people of the region themselves, the people that are right here, the people that have lived here all their lives, developing your own sovereign countries, pursuing your own unique visions, and charting your own destinies in your own way, unquote. This is straight out of the National Conservative Handbook. There was no mention of the lack of civil rights, the second-class status of women, the persecution of minorities, or other problems facing the region. It is true that Western values and principles have not been very successful here, but as Wall Street Journal columnist Gerard Baker noted, Trump laid out a foreign policy stressing U.S. economic interest shorn of idealism, joining his Vice President J.D. Vance as a foreign policy realist. But I'm not so sure that realist foreign policy, an American foreign policy purged of its Enlightenment principles and values, is actually that realist. Mr. Trump values wealth and money, praising his Mideastern hosts for creating such, quote, safe and orderly societies, unquote, with improving quality of life and flourishing economic growth. He praised them and affirmed that, quote, peace, prosperity, and progress ultimately came from embracing your national traditions and embracing the same heritage that you love so dearly. And it's something only you could do. You achieved a modern miracle, the Arabian way, unquote. But to Mr. Trump, the Arabian way was the accumulation of wealth and power in the hands of a few potentates, which seems to be also what he envisions for America. But Mr. Trump appears to be blind to the fact that wealth and power are not the only motivators of human action. Other people have different ideas and beliefs of what makes a good life, and such ideas and beliefs can be powerful forces for change. Values and beliefs have overthrown many societies, both poor and wealthy. Mr. Trump believes the lure of wealth and prosperity can overcome war and hostility. He thought he could quickly end the war on Ukraine by dangling peace and prosperity before Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky. The war continued. Mr. Trump thought that promises of peace and prosperity could convince the Palestinians to give up Gaza and go live elsewhere in safe and orderly society. Mr. Trump's foreign policy is not realist, but it is really only a reflection of his own avaricious proclivities. President Trump claims he wants a ceasefire in Ukraine to stop the bloodbath of killing on the front lines, and not the profits generated from his rare earth agreement. But Putin is not motivated by thoughts of wealth and power, but a much more powerful urge to recreate the Russian Empire of the Tsars. Mr. Trump and Mr. Vance have both said that if there is not much progress toward a ceasefire soon, they, and the U.S., will walk away. That is what Vladimir Putin is hoping for. Xi Jinping, too. A true realist foreign policy would not have our foreign adversaries licking their chops. Foreign policy realism that does not take into account the tremendous power of ideas is fatally flawed. Thank you for watching. Links to source material used in preparing this podcast can be found on my website, www.edificeoftrust.com.